The summer family picnic. It was 1987. I was 3 years old, and every summer my family would have their family picnic at Ryerson State Park in Pennsylvania. Oh, how I loved it. I can still smell the barbecue today. And there's me fishing for the very first time in Duke Lake. I didn't realize at the time, but this was a very pivotal moment in my life where I fell in love with fishing. Sure, I'd been with my parents before, but this was the first time I set a rod in the water. And oh boy, what a beautiful thing it was. And I've been meaning to make it back here for a long time now, and I finally had the opportunity. Today's going to be a great day because the more things change, the more they stay the same. Huh? Well, this sucks. Hi, my name's Jake. I play saxophone, tour around the country, occasionally play bass, occasionally make and sell some music, and what's that other thing? Oh yeah, I also really love fishing. Well, this is a little embarrassing. The shoreline's, give or take, about how I remember it. They've always had bathrooms and gazebos, picnic areas back there. We used to set camp, I think, right around that area where that little blockhouse is. But one thing that did change, they drained the lake 13 years ago. Actually, it was 18 years ago. Back in 2005, the lake was drained due to structural issues with the dam caused by longwall mining. Up until 2015, there were actually plans of refilling the lake and rebuilding the dam, but those have all fallen by the wayside. So they did add this new parking lot. Looks like these are actually solar panels too, so they're powering something. Maybe the building back there, and there's a playground behind that, so that's all new. But man, it's so weird just hearing how quiet it is on a day like this late in the year. This place would be packed just as much as, Raccoon, Keystone, Cannonsburg. This was a destination spot in the area. It's weird seeing it like this. It's a shell of its former self, but That doesn't mean that there aren't still some good fishing spots. But before we do that, let's check out the dam. So we probably came here 3 or 4 times as a kid, or when I was a kid. Well, my parents were still kids too, I guess, in their mid-20s. Dad just turned 30, that's right. Last time we were here from the video that we saw, but remember coming across that bridge, then we saw the water falling there. Me at the time, I had no difference what the difference between natural waterfall was versus a dam. So my aunts, uncles, parents were all correcting me like, oh no, that's a dam, that's a dam. So when I got a little older, I'm like, that's a bad word, right? I think I figured it out by the time I was 5 or 6. But yeah, it's the first dam I've ever seen. And here's the remnants. Nothing much left. It's all private property now. There's industry happening opposite of me. The reason why it was torn down, I'll have to double check the news, but I thought that it was because of seismic shifts, either due to fracking or plate tectonics. So rather than have the whole thing burst after a rainstorm, have a recreation of the Johnstown flood, they decided just to drain everything and tear it down. And that is that. This here's the business side of the dam. Water would get to about maybe 5 feet from the top there. But all the rest of it, that was all underwater. You're looking at the remnants of the deepest part of the lake, all overgrown now. It's a swampy marshland. It still collects, rainwaters. There's still a creek down there. Wait, creek, I mean crick for you folks in Pittsburgh. It's crazy to see though. It really is. I'd imagine the game commission came by, threw some electrodes in, shocked all the fish, got them to the top and got what they could out of here before they did this. And then the others will just simply float downstream. So there still are a number of trails all around for foot traffic only. Check this out. Jog at your own peril. That's pretty cool. I've seen some you could get permission to ride bikes up through here, I believe. Saw a video some years back where a guy was mountain biking all this terrain. A lot of it is industry now, but it's nice that they preserve the park, at least. So at this point in the video, you're probably asking yourself, like, Jake, if you knew that this place was drained, did you really spend the better part of an hour and a half driving to the middle of nowhere just to make an intro gag? I'm not proud. Don't worry, wasn't going to leave you guys hanging like that. There's actually a fishing spot I want to check out on this little creek called North Fork Dunkard Fork, right by this little bicycle bridge. Now, creek fishing isn't something I have a whole ton of experience with, namely because the creeks in and around Pittsburgh are kind of fished out. Everyone knows where the good spots are, and by the time you can finally get down there to fish them, the fish are usually gone. But in this case, I had 2 trout I was targeting for about an hour and a half. They kept coming around, and I kept throwing everything I could think of at them. Trout magnets, every type of tiny finesse lure. At this point, I'm just messing around with power bait, trying to get their attention. But the issue being, these guys were far too timid. They were away from their school, and they were just basically hovering in the area. They would see the lure, then they would go swimming into the opposite directions. So I kept playing this little game of cat and mouse for about an hour and a half. There were a couple fishermen right down by the bridge next to me. I didn't want to get in their way until one left. And that's when I made my move. I have 1 trout that I've just been chasing around all day. There's 1 trout in here that's just been circling around all day.
It's full of them down there, but you can't get them to bite Oh yeah.
Probably 30 trout down there, but you can't get them to eat. They'll chase the spinner, but they won't eat it.
Huh. Wonder if it's just time of day.
I think it's just weather,
That,
honestly.
that could be it. Hot, cold, cold, hot. They don't know what to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
They got to be confused as we are.
Yeah. I know I am. Came up here. I haven't been to this park since I was like 3 years old. I went to see the drained lake.
Okay.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I just want to apologize in advance for the lighting conditions. For whatever reason, the sun was in such a position just behind the trees where my GoPro didn't know how to adjust for the light. So I'll try to finesse that in post as much as I can, but there's only so much you can do whenever the lighting is going this in and out. But we got some cool stuff happening. And it's going to be hard to see due to the overexposure, underexposure. But there are at least 30 trout right out in front of me, all just hovering, all facing upstream. And they're just looking for prey to come down. And the guy was right. They were chasing lures. It took quite a while to figure out how to crack them, but yeah, we'll get to that sooner rather than later because I can't stand looking at the film like this. I'm so sorry once again. So after spending several minutes with a weightless power bait worm, I wasn't really grabbing their attention, so I switched over to a trout magnet jig head and used the Pepto-Bismol pink body. By the first cast, there were already 10 fish eyeballing this trout magnet and following it back. Cast 2, I was just tossing it right behind them where their new location was, closer to me.
Ah. Found the color they liked. Guess they like the pink right now.
Well, that was the case, but what I learned very quickly was that fish, well, you've heard the old phrase, once hooked, twice shy. What I learned here was that actually applies to the entire school. So as soon as I yanked him out, scared him and the rest of the school, none of them had any interest in the Keller anymore. That was it. So that's a thing you now know. So after switching different colors of the trout magnet, I went back to the Berkeley worm, keeping the trout magnet jig, and I strung it up wacky rig style.
And what do I find? 300 trout and one rock bass. Man, you inhaled that. Wasn't meant for you, but hey, that's cool. There we go. One brock bass and a school of trout. Gotta love it.
Switching back to a white trout magnet.
Oh. I think he got the whole jig. He did. Guess the rock bass loosened that knot.
So the guy and his kid went home. Me and one other guy were left. He caught a trout and put it on a stringer, and he was just taking off. So as he was doing so, I took his spot, throwing my lure into a different school of fish. And this happened.
Got him. There we go. Got a lot of fight on him. Any chance you want another one? You want another one?
Give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man a fish, feed him for a life, but he was already fishing and already caught one, so...
I'm all the way up in Pittsburgh. I don't have anything to hold it.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
And then my dad's trying to have a fish fry this weekend.
Oh man, they're amazing. Yeah. Have a good one. Well, I'm heading out of here, running out of daylight, but man, that was cool. Was not expecting a little trout hole, and I learned a lot about this species just from that. So they all seem to like staying upstream, looking at things floating down, and they're very anxious to attack at first, but if you hook one, they get real, well, once hooked, twice shy, but in this case, that applies to the entire school. So the lake is gone, but there's still plenty of good fishing around here. I saw a lot of other opportunities along the creek, so they do stock this, and looks like a blast. So had fun here, time to get home, and till next time, keep on fishing.